Hello everyone, in this video I will be discussing the introduction to global culture and cultural flows. Culture exists in different forms such as ideas, words, images, musical sounds, and etc. Being available in different forms makes it possible to flow easier all over the world. One thing that allows this smooth flow to happen is the existence of course, the internet. Culture is becoming more available in digitized forms, thus this helps a lot. Internet helps a lot. Okay, so let's take a look at the cultures in digitized forms rather. So movies, videos, music, books, newspapers, photos, and many more. Name it. Are just a few of the digitized cultural forms that easily reach different parts of the world because of the internet. Because it connects the world. It allows a free flow of the culture. Additionally, people can still be connected to a culture even with the long distance barriers. This is so because they can easily reach out to it through various social media platforms and video conferencing websites and applications like Skype, FaceTime, Zoom Meeting, Google Meet, and many others. Okay, very convenient, right? But the question is here, the question here is, what hinders the culture to flow freely? The answer is simple. The lack of access to the internet. Only the lack of access to the internet is what hinders the culture to have a free flow. Okay, so we have another question. Do all types and forms of culture travel across the globe at the same rate? And the answer is no. Even though culture does flow easily across the globe, not all of its forms and types can travel at the same rate. Okay, let's talk about power and influence. More powerful and more influential societies' culture tend to flow with more ease than the weak societies. For example, the American culture. Americans have great access to internet which allows them to share and let out their cultures for the world to see. More so, they're from a very influential country. Now let's talk about interest. Like how does interest influence the flow of culture? Take pop culture and innovative theories in social sciences for example. Okay, so which of the two do you think will reach more people in no time? Of course, without a doubt, it is the pop culture. The latter moves in slow motion and worse, it may never make it to the other parts of the world. Okay, so this chapter will focus on the introduction of the three theories of globalization, namely cultural differentialism, convergence, and hybridization as they relate to global culture. Global culture will be looked at using these three perspectives. Okay, so first, in cultural differentialism, we'll be taking a closer look at the barriers that prevents the total free flow of cultures so as not to make the cultures alike. Next is the convergence. We will look at how stronger culture flows globally, resulting the cultures to grow more alike because of greater influence of other society. And lastly, the hybridization theory. It will explain the interaction between the external and internal flows of culture, which give rise to unique cultural hybrids. Okay, and that's it to the introduction to global culture and cultural flows. I am Alais de Guzman of BS Accountancy 2-2.
Cultural differentialism. The theory of cultural differentialism in globalization revolves around how barriers to cultural flow influence the development of cultures to remain distinctive and sometimes even conflicting from one another. Cultural differentialism describes the process of globalization to have only minimal effects on the assimilation of cultures, that at their core, cultures have lasting differences between them and are largely closed to the influence of others. Consider the different cultures as landmasses with fault lines between them. These landmasses can move around and through each other, leading to occasional collisions in the fault lines that could have disastrous effects. A more extreme model would be to consider contrasting cultures as oil and water. They do not mix together, and when brought to a boiling point, the water eventually evaporates, leaving only the oil behind. From that example, we arrive at the term civilization, as of Samuel Huntington's The Clash of Civilizations and the Remaking of the World Order. It refers to the broadest level of culture and cultural identity, spanning beyond the level of nation-states but short of humanity in its entirety. Huntington divided the world into 8 to 9 civilizations: Sinic, Japanese, Hindu, Islamic, Orthodox, Western European, North American, Latin American, and African. The history of mankind is the history of civilizations. In his grand narrative, Huntington described the relationship between civilizations across history. The first phase, where contact between civilizations was virtually non-existent, but in times that they did, the clash between cultures was immense. The second phase, where Western civilization dominated other civilizations with its advanced practices in commerce, politics, military, and technology. And the third phase, where Western dominance has come to a decline and other civilizations such as the Sinic and Islamic see a rise in power. One case of cultural differentialism in the first phase was the unstable relations between the West and Islam in the Crusades, that eventually led to bloody conflict even after they found compromise. Another case in the second phase was the discrimination of minorities, such as the displacement and purge of Muslims and Jews by the Inquisition in Spain. In the third phase, as Huntington depicted, is the growing problem of terrorism in the Middle East as backlash against the encroachment of Western culture. Huntington argues that wherever there is a mix of cultures, conflict will eventually ensue, thus emphasizing the need for cultural continuity and close to cultural purity in civilizations. In his view, globalization is a process by which civilizations exist and move in roughly parallel and largely independent fashion. Cultural differentialism does not necessarily mean it is impossible for significantly different cultures to coexist peacefully, and Huntington's arguments are not absolute. It is just the first theory of globalization and global culture and cultural flows, before hybridization and convergence.